talk show where we're kicking it and having fun on inspirational radio. We're the talk show, kicking it and having fun. So turn your radio up.
Oh, we don't have a special introduction today?
Oh, nothing was happening.
Oh.
You were sitting there, I was sitting there. I didn't, it don't count down and play the music on this screen.
Oh, okay.
Well, we ready.
I'm just here, brother. I'm just
3, 2,
hanging out.
1,
You heard me?
boom.
Do you got a special introduction for us today?
Yes, sir.
Let me see here.
Some on your hands too.
You told Harpo to beat me.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness. Oh, Lord.
Right there. I was gonna get to come home. You don't know what it's like. Want to sing and have it beat out you. Want to talk and can't. Want to leave and bet not. Oh, Basile. Oh my God. Y'all don't know, Shelton. Y'all don't know about what it's like being in this place, in this jailhouse. It's so hard out here on this street. Help me, Jesus.
Wow.
All my life I had to fight. I had to fight my uncles and my brothers and my sisters. Oh yeah, everybody got fought. I fought my auntie one time over a pack of cigarettes. Oh God. Yeah, we fought like cats and dogs in the front yard over the cigarettes. Oh yes. Oh, I beat the brakes off my auntie behind them cigarettes, and I didn't even smoke them.
Wow.
Listen, I want y'all to understand something that, people ain't always had it easy. People ain't always been saved. And there was a time when anybody could get it. Anybody can catch these hands. Anybody could receive them. But thanks be to God that he's delivered me, from beating people up, beating people up,
Stop
yeah.
it, Lord.
Stop it right now.
Stop him, Lord. Right now.
Help me, Lord. Help me.
Introduce us, please.
Please.
Listen, I don't want to go too much further, but I'm trying to tell y'all what it was like.
Don't.
I'm trying to tell you.
Don't do it.
When I came down, I'm trying to tell you something. But if y'all can hear me out there, if y'all can see me, if you can see the anguish and the hurt in my face, then you'll know that these people on this Re-Up radio show, they good people. And I appreciate them. Because there was days where I didn't have anything but potted meat and crackers. Oh, my God. And I thought to myself, is this the end, Lord? Is this all you got for me? I mean, am I going to meet my tragedy on today? But Lord said it wasn't so. He said it was going to be all right. And sooner or later, I was able to get a little soda water with that potted meat and crackers, And then I graduated up to lunch meat. Oh, look at him. Then, Lord, I got some cheese with that lunch meat. And I had lunch meat, cheese. I had Lunchables before Lunchables was in the store. Y'all better hear me. I'm telling you, that lunch meat, cheese, and crackers got me through many a days, y'all. But y'all pray. Wherever you at, I want y'all to pray. Listen.
We praying.
Woo, listen, y'all better pray. If you don't know, there are 3 talented and dynamic hosts that host this Re-Up show, and they probably don't know tough times like I done been through, but they stress what you believe.
Do.
Yeah, well,
I
say
do.
something if you know something. Yeah, that's the I'm talking about. That's the man behind the man behind the man who sat next to the man who sat next to the man that slapped me. But anywho, Lasagna Witt is over there somewhere. Where you at, Lasagna? Wave your hands. Come on, wave your hands, both of them, right in front of the screens. Wave your hands. There you go. There you go. Certainly, last but not least, I got to give a lot of respect to this man because he didn't been out there in the trenches, sometimes in shorts and cowboy boots. You know what I'm saying? He did what he had to. You know, he knows stuff too. He'll probably tell you about those when he gets on here. But I'm talking about none other than the Bishop One Good Leg. Y'all put your hands together and welcome all three of these fine hosts to this radio show. Cause if you know like I know, don't patty cake them now. Put your hands together now. Slap those blessed hands together and let me hear something now. Come on. Come on. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Let everybody in the heavens hear you. Come on now. Shout unto glory.
Well, we really appreciate that introduction.
Yeah.
That was surprising. That was out of the blue. I mean, probably appropriate for one of the topics we're gonna end up talking about today anyway. So
That's how the Lord works, man.
I see. Well, I really appreciate what's our introduction person's name tonight?
Javance. Man, my name's Javance.
Javance.
Yeah.
Okay. And you done changed to a whole different demeanor now, though. You was
Yeah.
I thought you was a part of the Color Purple initially.
It seemed like Color Purple, but that was my life too. You know what I'm saying?
You
I
done
wanted
went
to go
straight
somewhere
thuggish.
couldn't.
You done went straight thuggish. Javance.
Yeah,
Okay.
man.
Well, Javance, we really appreciate your introduction today, and it's going to lead us into, our conversation today. Follow up with some of the current events, some of the things happening, in the media, on social media, and as always, talk about it from a Christian point of view, a believer's point of view. See what kind of lessons we can learn, from some of the things that's happening out here in the world. There's a lot happening in this world. Last week we talked, I know, about the submarine. That show will be up. Some of the edits from that show will be up pretty soon. I know the latest update, as we, reported last week, there are definitely no survivors there. I think, the best news in that scenario is that it wasn't a situation to where they ran out of breath. It sounds like the submarine, it did implode, which would have happened really, really quickly, and really allowed for, not a lot of pain, not a lot of torture.
So I'm finding out new things as we go about that whole submarine situation.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing that baffled me. The big U.S. submarines, the big ones, you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
They only go down to 2,000 feet. The big ones. The ones that's made for submarining.
Made for submarining?
Yeah.
And don't have joysticks?
This one was trying to go down 2.5 miles. Put that in perspective, Shelton. The real submarines go down to a total depth of 2,000 feet. You know why? Because that's the depth that you can go with humans and basically be safe. Anything below that usually is mechanical or unmanned craft because it could take it's more dense and solid and can take that type of pressure. They were trying to go down there in something smaller than a real submarine, deeper, like two, three, what, 4 or 5 times deeper than the real submarine could go, brother. Who authorized this? Who said that this was gonna work? Like who was in on the planning of this, brother?
I,
Who does that?
I don't know.
Let that sink in, brother. A real submarine goes 2,000 feet. They were trying to go 12,000 feet.
Hey, I mean, it sunk in for me last week. It's not something that I would ascribe to. But if you missed what we talked about last week, it was really from a standpoint of the internet and how it was probably too soon for people to make jokes about people dying, especially in the way that they were going to die. And that was kind of sad, especially with Christians being involved with that, and again showing the lack of empathy I think we have in this world today, where we don't really look at situations, or we look at situations based off of people's cultural status. So because these people were rich, because to answer your question, like who authorized this, it's a billionaire who built this and wanted to do something, I don't know, extra with his money or whatever, and he had a couple of his rich friends pay him $250,000, and they all decided to do something that was quite dangerous, and it didn't work out.
They paid the price.
Yeah, it didn't work out. Definitely not something that is advised. But again, people were left behind, families, friends. Something you pointed out last week. Most likely, if they're billionaires, they probably have people that works, companies that they supported. So, I just think as Christians, especially, we have to, realize and understand our duty to empathize with any type of tragedy that may occur, in that vein. And, apparently while this was going on, because, the other thing that I heard was there was some type of ship where it's like 700, people were kind of lost at sea or something like that. I don't know know any details about that, but people were, kind of comparing the two situations. And I think that's my point. You can't really compare. If people died or people were lost or people were harmed in any of these situations, regardless of what the media tried to, present, then, as a Christian, no matter who you hear, no matter who that person is, our character should definitely, empathize, grieve, and pray for, the people who, have sorrow for those situations. Other thing we talked about last week, another, I'm pretty sure they're setting courts and stuff like that. Last week, I didn't really want to talk about Trump, but of course, there's some updates with that. More audio tapes coming out as far as his, that are pretty incriminating as far as all the things that he says, that should exonerate him. And again, we only talk about that from the standpoint, the politics of it, no matter if you are a conservative or a liberal or whatever, just really from the standpoint that as Christians, I I would personally like to see us stop using Donald Trump as the face of our Christianity. Important to him as what the Christian shield should look like, because the more and more I read about him or see about him, I really don't see a great representation there. And I want to take a time, right? We had I wanted to let you two guys know that we had some feedback from one of our audience members. I'm gonna read this. I was gonna bring it up, but because of our technical difficulties, I'm gonna just read it to you. This person says, as a guest conservative, and I'm reading this because I want you guys to respond to this person as well. I did, but I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say. It says, as a guest, as I guess a conservative, I heard Trump say one thing I totally agree with. No one called him a racist until the media and Democratic Party planted in the minds of Black people. Just because someone gets arrested doesn't mean that they are not Christians. Paul wrote the majority of the letters from prison. And so, that was a comment on one of our shows. I believe probably the week before last, when we did have a conversation about the recent indictment with Trump. And my response to that person, because I do try to respond to all of our comments, was, I agree. I have never and will never say that a person who's arrested cannot be a Christian. I don't think that's my point of view at all. And I personally, I don't think I've ever called Trump a racist. I do think he, has some tendencies. I think deeper than that is Donald Trump seems to be a person that plays to whoever will support him. So if that's a white supremacist group, if that's Black Lives Matter, if that's whatever, whoever's going to give him the most votes to accomplish whatever he wants to accomplish, that's who I think he plays to. I think he says he tries to say the things that will, get them to vote for him. And in terms of Christianity, I feel like that he uses that ploy to, to attract the Christian vote, right? So I think he talks about a lot of bills, a lot of things that, conservative Christians refer to or care about in order to achieve their vote. Now, nothing about his personality or his behavior tells me he cares about those things, but that's just me. But do I think he can be a Christian because he's arrested? No, I have no problem with that. And I think my final point to that person was just more of an example. One of the characteristics, and we'll talk a little bit about this, I think, on the show today, of Christians and as we get closer to God, is humility. And I'll ask you guys this question. Have y'all ever heard Donald Trump say, I messed up? Or I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, or anything of the sort that says that speaks to any type of humility? You know what I mean? So, even in this case, if he took the documents by mistake, didn't know he was supposed to take the documents or all of that kind of stuff, him just saying like, hey, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to take the documents. I'm trying to, I want to give them back. The issue here is that they asked for him back. They told him he wasn't supposed to take the documents, give him back, and he still lied and said he kept the documents, and still did some underhanded things. Again, not saying he can't be a Christian or anything like that, but I think the closer we get to God, the more we're willing to own up to our mistakes, the more we're willing to, be humble and say, you know what, I don't always get it right. Donald Trump is the exact opposite to me. He says that he does everything great, everything perfect, everything right. And to me, that's probably the That's the opposite of who Christ was and who he's been represented in the Bible. So that's how I would answer that question or respond to that question. So if the person who wrote that is listening, that's in a nutshell what I would say to it. You guys got a response or something different, or maybe y'all agree with the comment that they made, but wanted to give you guys an opportunity to respond as well. Dion, no?
I mean, in that right there, there's already 2 or 3 things wrong with it. The fact that saying he stole the documents, that's a sin. Stole them. Then he lied about, not having them. That was a sin. The part about humility, that's never really there. I've never seen him be humble about nothing. And I just don't believe he has any ties to Christianity. I don't believe he has any real ties to Christianity. I don't believe it. I don't see him being able to own his, mistakes and saying, hey, I messed up, or whatever the case may be. He's still with the whole, fake news and the collusion and all that with the Russians, and it's just tired to me, man. It's tired.
No?
Just own it and be through with it.
So,
Yeah.
Any response to that?
People, we need help. I feel like we got a lot of stuff that we need to be addressed, and it just seems like with the leadership of both sides, it's difficult to get the people's voices heard, to get the people that really need the help. All I can see, feel, and hear is agendas being pushed. It's like I have an agenda. I just want to get in office to push an agenda. I don't care if it hurt people, help people. I'm talking about both sides. It's like, where are the people being seen about? Why we not making laws to help people and doing things to hurt people in the details? You're not paying attention. And so, and with that question of stuff, I don't have a clue if he's saved or not. I have no idea. But I do know that they do have specific criteria for picking leadership people. And sometimes if you don't see those leadership skills, you probably shouldn't, be in office. It's just a lot of character flaws, even for the camera. I know everybody have stuff that's wrong, but it's a lot that goes on and a lot that's been said over the years, running for office and stuff. It's a lot there. And I'd be real concerned that we don't have leadership that represents the people. We got 300, millions of people that we need to see about. And I don't think that we're concerned about people as a whole in general. Not concerned, with the laws that we make and what we say and what we propagate and what we support and what we do. I think most presidents are just a face. And I think the people behind them push the bills and laws that they want pushed. But it's disheartening. I'm just going to say that. It's disheartening for what I see happening and how the people are left out. The small man. Nobody speaking up for them, have a voice for them. I just see a lot of agendas being pushed. You go with this agenda, that agenda, and I think it's disheartening overall. That's my real thought about our leadership, not embracing the people as a whole and not being concerned about the masses of people as a whole, not seeing about the poor, the widows, and the children. So that's my take on that. I don't know if he's saved or not. Just the characters, the stuff that they say, it just don't seem like it represents nothing that I know about Christ, but I can't say in his heart if he's saved or not. I don't like how I see. I don't like what's being said. And I think our leadership, we have a very tough time. It's lacking leadership, like taking accountability, standing for what you believe. And nobody's perfect. Everybody admits wrong. You gotta just own it. A great leader, always you own it because you're the leader. If it go good, you own it. If it go bad, you own it because you the face of it. It doesn't matter. Once you in office, you have to own your part and your place. And I just think we don't have, our leadership is just not the best. That's just what I think in my real heart, if you really want to know.
No, I definitely want to know, and I thank you for articulating that way because, for one, I think, and this is one point that I know we've tried to drive home. I personally think that there needs to be a separation between, our Christian beliefs and our political beliefs. Again, some of our listeners, I know they would support. They are Trump supporters. They support him. We have people who are liberal or democratic or whatever. What we've always said though is that kingdom should come first. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And anytime, nowadays in our culture, we have so many different things or titles that we put before Christians, right? So LGBTQ Christian, um, conservative Christian, liberal Christian, right? And
Mhm.
anytime you put something before your Christ-like nature, to me, if your attitude and your demeanor and your behavior, um, pushes that agenda before, and it goes against kingdom agenda, it goes against what Christ is actually saying, then that's when we get into a problem. I'm not, we had a show all about LGBTQ and can they be Christians? Absolutely. You can be a Christian and struggle with whatever type of, sin or thing that you have going on. Um,
Mhm.
but when you put, like we put this title in front of Christianity and try to make God bend to whatever agenda or whatever thing I have going on at that point, and that's when, I think there is a problem and a controversy. And so, that's my only issue when it comes to Trump and it comes to Christians who I feel idolize or put Trump and his agenda and and um, his agenda before things that we know is right or wrong. Like if he's lying, I mean, if even if that's somebody I voted for, I'm not going to sit up there and say or pretend like he didn't lie or he didn't steal or he didn't, if someone killed someone, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to sit up there and act like it's okay because this person supports my political belief or political thing. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Whether liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican, whatever, as Christians, we have to stay tied to the foundation of who God made us and making us to be, as a body of Christ. And um, I see our foundation being so shaky because again, we put our personal, our political,
Mhm.
and our whatever beliefs actually even before who we are as quote unquote Christians or believers. And so, um, again, however you feel about Trump, that's fine. And Lasagna, you said it. Like again, I can't say if the man is saved or not. I can't see his heart. What I do understand and what I do know, what I always recommend that people do is just look at people's fruit. Look at how they
Mhm.
handle things. Look at how they deal with things, right? And as a leader, and you did a great job articulating that. As a leader, I mean, a good leader is going to take responsibility
Mhm.
for what they do, good, bad, or indifferent.
Mhm.
And I've never heard, not one. And if somebody can give me an example of this man ever saying that he's done anything wrong or that there's something that that he apologizes for or whatever, I am yet to hear that. And that's a scary thing, whether or not he's a Christian or
Mhm.
if the leader of a nation that is a world power to not have a level of humility is very scary to me. And that's no matter who the leader is. If he was a Democrat, if he was whatever, Like it really doesn't matter. If you have a company and you have a leader that doesn't take accountability for mistakes or accountability for things that aren't right, um, it's a very scary thing. It's not good to have a person like that leading your country. Uh, so that was one of the comments. Another comment that I came across. Let's see. You Christians are petty and are going to hell. I don't know. That was on the same video, and so I don't know if he watched the whole video or if he's talking to us. I did ask for some more clarity on that. My only response to that was, to ask for a little bit more clarity on that and to just remind him and anybody else listening. One of the other points I think that we brought up on this show is that all Christians aren't alike. We're not all in the same place with our walk and our relationship with God. And the only person that we want to really point your attention to and introduce you to is Jesus Christ. Like he's the only perfect representation of the body of Christ. And on this show, we've admitted and showcased and shown some of the flaws that we have as a body of Christ that may or may not have pushed people away or given people the wrong impression on who God is. But definitely not wanting to be petty.
I don't know. I mean, we might need to rewind that show.
Need to rewind that show?
Where?
Oh, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't. It was a very short
Point
comment.
to the petty. That's what I want you to do, sir or ma'am. Point to the petty.
Point to the petty. Y'all may have offended Dion. No.
It might have just been a general comment that he was thinking about most Christians or something.
That's just in my everyday living or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I can be petty, but I'm being petty, and it's obvious when I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? and that's just not that. And judging people is something I don't do out of context. You know what I'm saying? You just don't do that. People have all kind of issues and all kind of situations or whatever, and I understand more than anyone because I've been from the uttermost to the guttermost. You know what I'm saying? I've done it all, and I have no room to judge nobody. But this pettiness, what?
Hey, I mean, it's a comment, and hopefully that person hears or reads my comment and gives us a little bit more context on it. But what I will say, and one of the reasons why I'm reading these comments is we want to hear from our audience. We want to hear, your thoughts. We want to hear, your comments, your additions, your point of view, whether you agree or disagree with us. One of the things that I really try to do is hear different points of view when it comes to situations like that. Like things don't get addressed without a conversation. You know what I mean? And I'm not afraid of a conversation, not afraid of anyone who disagrees or feels differently, and don't have a problem articulating or even going a little bit deeper in why I say or believe as I believe. So I thought those were very interesting, topics or comments. I was going to play a video. That one of the current events that happened this week that I think was all over my feed was happened in Chicago. It was a young lady. It looks like they were at a restaurant. There was a young man. From what I kind of understand, like there was some argument about placement in line, whether he was cut in line or whatever. They ended up having some words. The man physically attacks the woman, hits her 3 times, I believe, like really, really hard. The video that I had, it doesn't show her getting hit, thank God, but it definitely shows the wind up, and it shows, you know, the force behind what he was doing, and ultimately what ends up happening is her son, 14-year son, gets a advice, he shoots him again, and he does end up being unalived based off of that situation. Why was this interesting to me? Again, I always look at the response to different situations. Unfortunately, in the time that we live with gun violence and, the readiness to have, weapons and things like that, this is kind of a common situation growing up. It's not the first time that I've heard situation like this, but the response was definitely mixed. The 14-year-old and the mother were arrested, initially charged with first-degree murder, but then the charges were later dropped earlier this week. All right, and so a lot of people were very happy about that, and then some people were, not so happy about it, saying that she and her son should have been accountable for.
Yeah, I tell you what. Whoever is mad about that and don't like that, let me come hit your mama in the face 3 times and see what you do. And you standing there. Let me come to wherever you're at and haul off and really knock the taste out your mama's mouth 3 times and then see what you do. Yeah, that's why the police let him go, man, because that video clearly showed that he didn't have no choice. He wasn't as strong as that man or as big as that man. You know what I'm saying? Fighting him was not an option. Stopping him physically was not an option. So he went for what he had, which was that heat, and he put it on him. He put that blanket on him and let it up. I'm sorry. He went for the pistol, and he shot the man. That's what he did. I'm sorry. I had to come back. I was going a little street. My bad. My bad. I'm sorry.
And it could have been out of fear, because you don't know if somebody's hitting you. You could have killed his mom. You don't know. You don't know if they're going to kill you or not. If somebody just keeps punching you.
I think either of us, me and Shelton. Shelton is way more calm than I am. Somebody bust your mom in the mouth 3 times. Listen, you might as well put some flowers on them because they gone. But you might as well put some flowers on them. Anybody hit Miss Seaworth, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. Me, Kyron, whoever, any of your boys. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I love you, brother, but you hit my mom's in the mouth 3 times, brother. I got to go and I got to stretch you out. I'm going to call Gregory Spencer to come get you. Yeah.
What were you saying, Sonia? I'm sorry.
No, I was saying that being 14 and somebody hitting with that type of force, you don't know if they're going to kill your mom or not, because people have gotten beat to death. And at 14, the way your brain developed, he's a young person. He's like, I got to protect my mom. So that could be a sheer panic response more than it is, I'm going to try to kill. I'm just trying to get you off my mom, more than, trying to kill him per se. It's like, I got to get you off my mom any way I can. I'm 14 years old. I don't know if you're going to kill her or not, because you hit her 1, 2, 3 times. It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So because they had access to a weapon, that's what he went to. Because as a child, you have no idea. He's 14. You don't know if he's going to kill her. You don't know what's going to happen. Or even if you're older or younger, it's like, I believe the response is sheer panic. It's a sheer adrenaline response is what I'm saying.
And so there's one part that you'll hear in the video. She actually tells her son to go to the car. And the man that she's talking to actually thinks he's talking to him. Because he responds and he says, what do you mean go to my car? But she was actually looking at her son, who was probably in the doorway, instructing him to go to the car to get their protection at this moment, And so, Dion, what you describe and Lasagna, what you're describing is, again, I think the theme over the last couple of weeks is a lack of empathy. Like, what would you do if someone you loved, someone that was super close to you, was being attacked by someone who was physically stronger or physically, you know, hurting that particular person. You know, a lot of us, you know, can say in retrospect what we would do, like after the fact. But being in that situation and like you said, Lasagna, with the adrenaline, you don't know
You don't know.
the lengths or the levels. Dion sounds like he knows the lengths and the levels he would take. But but you don't know how far you would go to protect your loved one. And so, you know, and that's to me, and you know, I want to round all this up with that. Like, where is our empathy? Where is our understanding for different things like this? Because as I stated earlier, this is happening. Things like this is happening more frequently and more. You know, it's crazy. You know, and I think as our culture, as we get we continue to have a lack of empathy and a lack of care for life and people outside of ourselves. You know, for humanity, I think we're going to see more and more, you know, situations like this, unfortunately. You know, I just know that there was a time like nobody would put your hands on somebody's mama. Like, mama has always been off limits. I don't know. In my neighborhood, mama was off limits. Like, don't touch my mama, touch my grandmama. Like,
Yeah, in our neighborhood, you couldn't even say your mama. Once you start talking about them, boy,
right,
the fight was on. Yeah, the
right.
fight is on. You don't even know what they saying your mama did or about. As soon as you say them words, hey, it done went down.
Your mama jokes was fighting words.
It
You
done
know
went
what I
down.
mean?
It done went down.
Like,
Even when I tell jokes now, I only talk about my own mama. I don't talk about nobody else's mama. Because I grew up with her. My funnies about my own mama. I understand the assignment. I got the memo. I understand the assignment. Everybody mama's off limits except my own. I talk about my own, not yours.
so one other thing that's kind of current event that I want to, you know, make sure that we talk through, and I am going to show a little part of the video here because I don't think either one of you have watched The Chosen yet, right? Have you seen any piece of that yet?
Oh, I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen bits and pieces though.
You have
That's
seen
my
some of
sister.
it. Dion,
Yeah, my
have you
sister
seen The
watched it.
Chosen?
But I haven't seen it in its entirety.
No, the movie.
Oh, the show.
The show, TV show.
It's about the life of Christ.
Oh, Jesus.
Nah, I heard the group.
No, that's not the same group. No,
Chosen.
We
that's
talking
apples
about
and oranges.
the disciples,
The Gospel KC and JoJo.
the Jesus and his group is what Chosen's about. And you know, I'm going to play. I wanted to find a snippet to play, right? And I'm going to lead with this. There's a media personality, Candace Owens, and I can tell you that 98% of the things that I've heard her talk about, I don't really have a lot of agreement to. Or let me correct that. Maybe I don't have an agreement. I don't agree with how she presents, you know, some of her topics, even the stuff that I might, you know, agree with her on. I don't really like the spirit that she gives it with. But she did a take on this particular situation. So I want to play the video. Well, let me give you guys a background first, right? So Chosen, it's 3 seasons of this show. It is a show about the life of Christ, right? So it's him meeting the disciples. It tells like background stories of the disciples: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, you know, Simon, Peter, you know, all of the disciples. It's, you know, last week I know we talked about Peter. Like, Peter in this show really acts like Peter, right? I think y'all would like, you know, Peter. He's definitely one of the highlights, you know, of the show when you watch it. So really good representation, I think, of the New Testament. It's something, you know, culturally that, when you look at all the things that are presented on TV and media right now, this is definitely one of those things that represents, I think, truly how God, who God is, what the church should look like, what Christ looked like as he walked on this earth. And I think that's super important because, a lot of times as Christians, we focus on the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. But he walked on this earth for over 30 years, showing us what this walk should look like and showing us how to respond in situations and showing us how to react to different things and answering a lot of questions that if we really, dig into that and really, take, take a view of it that or look at that from his perspective, it might help us in our day-to-day walk. Matter of fact, I know it might not. It's not even might. It will help us in our day-to-day walk on how we deal with things and how we live, our life. So this is one show, the few episodes that I've seen where it really does a good job capturing that. And then it goes a step further because, I was talking to Lasagna about the man at the pool that was, paralyzed all his life. Like it takes his story. Like when we read about him in the Bible, we meet him when Jesus meets him, right? Mm-hmm. But this show goes back and tries to explain like his childhood, like how his childhood could have been, introduce a brother and puts a little, story behind that. So it kind of gives, what I was saying last week, an opportunity for us to look at these characters as more than characters, as people with lives and with, how, it tries to put us in the shoes of these people so that we can see, what it looks like to be paralyzed all your life. And then Jesus comes and, you're healed and you can walk now. So his response and his reaction afterwards, after, seeing his whole story was a great moment, I think for this show. Right. And so, everything I'm saying about the show is great. My wife has been binge watching it. She's almost finished with season 3 of it. So I'm gonna have to, go back and try to catch up with her. But the reason why this is in the news for the last couple of weeks is because season 4 is being recorded. And, just like other TV shows, sometimes they do behind, trailers and behind the scenes on what the show is going to be about, all that kind of good stuff. And while they were doing that, someone caught a glimpse of one of the cameramen who had like an LGBT pride flag, on his camera. And he was walking around with patches with rainbows and things like that. And been a big uproar, right? To where a lot of conservative Christians, a lot of Christians are saying, hey, boycott this, don't watch this show until they fire this man or, let him go. And so Candace Owen has a take on that. And this is probably the first time ever that I'm going to say, like publicly, I almost completely agree with her and her take on this. And so I'm only going to play a piece of it. But I wanted you guys to, take a look at that, and then we can, end the show with that. Because I know there was some other stuff I wanted to talk about, but I'm going to save that for next week. All right. So while I'm setting this up, do you guys have any thoughts before I bring this video up? Lasagna?
That's completely crazy.
Oh yeah, with the LG, I think everybody got to eat and work, and plus he might get saved on set. I don't think you need to throw people away if they got a good talent and a good art. Hey, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. He may have that belief, he may feel like that, he may be a cameraman. I don't see why you got to throw him out and boycott the show because somebody have a lifestyle that I don't agree with. He's shooting the camera, he's not playing in it, he's not acting like I'm not real sure what everybody's in an uproar about because he does that and he's just the cameraman. He might get saved. I'm serious. You got to meet people where they at. You just don't throw them away. It's like, okay, he might get saved. Hey, man, we just on here. He's the cameraman. So I'm not sure I don't know why they would make a big deal and be like, you got to get rid of him, you got to fire him, I'm not going to watch it. It doesn't take away from the credibility of the show. He might be an excellent cameraman. Everybody got something wrong. So what if they take the show and be like, okay, what sin have you ever done? Oh my God, no, get out the show. You have lied. You got to go. Oh my God, I'm sure people have done things that's filming the show. I'm really serious. All have seen and fall short. So there's got to be something everybody has done who's filming the show, even the people playing in the show. So it'll be kind of difficult to just throw them out. I think you should work with people. And I believe that you ain't get nobody saved that you ain't talking to. You know what I mean? He didn't be in that environment. He need to be around some people that really got it for real. That's my take. Be around people that really got it. And you need to let you influence them and not them influence you. That's what I would say about that.
Okay, let me play this real quick, and we'll circle back because I think we're all going to be pretty close in line with this.
Let's continue and action.
So who would have thought Judas and Z doing laundry together would be one of the most...
Did you see it? I saw it. You saw it too? Oh my goodness, what are we going into? So what happened next is conservatives went crazy. It sort of began with a Christian individual. His name is John Root. He worked, I'm saying this in the past tense, for Turning Point USA. He was a contributor and a former sports reporter, and he took to Twitter to essentially say, hey, at The Chosen TV, can you explain why there's a pride flag on set? He took it a bit further than this. He went on and he said, shouldn't every part of this show be biblically based to truly honor the authentic Jesus? If you stand by having a pride flag on your set, you are not a Christian show. This was immediately followed by calls, which were also led by John Root, for conservatives to stop watching The Chosen. How can we watch this?
All right. Dion, could you hear that? You couldn't? Okay. So I'm going to have to probably... You can't? Okay. Well, when I bring you back on, I think you'll be able to hear. On audience. Sonia, you did hear it, right?
Oh, it was fine for me, but I thought you had said you had to take him out and then play it. I didn't think you could play him both.
Yeah, I couldn't. I can't, based off of how we have it set up tonight. But so, Dion, in short, what Candace did, she played the video that showed the pride flag, right? And then there was a media personality. His name is John. I think it's John Root, something like that. That commented. He freeze framed it. Saw the flag. Was like, hey, you guys are a Christian show. Everything about your show should be biblical and Christian. Why do you have somebody on your set that has a pride flag? On their camera, basically. And so
that's utterly ridiculous. That's tremendously ridiculous, because probably 90% of all workers on productions, be it crew, be it actors and actresses, are probably lesbian or gay. Like, there's a large
90%.
There's a large.
That's a big percentage, but
there is a large population of yeah, all of them. There is a large population in Hollywood, brother.
But 90%.
Yeah.
I can't get with that, man. It can't be 90%.
Listen. Now we're including crew, we're including actors, we're including writers, we're including directors, we're including
everybody. Yeah. Okay. I mean, now I do agree with you that it's absurd. Because I'll take it further than that. Like, when you work at a company, like, and this is where I agree with Candace on. She's going to explain business, right? So when you interviewing these people, you can't ask them about their sexual preference. You can't ask them about, their person. That's illegal. You know what I mean? And then you can't fire them because of their sexual presence or you know, a religious belief or anything. You can't do that. Like
you're not hiring them because of that.
exactly. You're hiring him because he's a good cameraman. Like that's what he's supposed to bring. Like this is what I do. This is what it looked like. Like all his personal whatever he does, you know, at home, offset or whatever, that's really not
Take off.
right. So that's the absurdness to me. Regardless, I don't agree with the percentage. That's a lot, 90%. Dang. But irregardless, if it was true or not true, like it really, like as Christians, I think we need to stop. Like we have to be very, you know, careful with that. And Lasagna, I know Dion, you couldn't hear Lasagna, but she was talking about the fact that, you know, how can you change someone that you won't touch? This man he's actually filming a show about Jesus Christ, right? He's getting to see firsthand, you know, some of the scriptures and some of the things walked out and lived out. Like that's exactly where I want him at. That's exactly what I would want him to experience. And you know, unfortunately, and this goes back to what the kind of the vein that we've been on, unfortunately, this reaction from my Christian brothers and sisters is what I think hinders our ability to reach people, you know, like this young man or other people. Because, you know, the fact that you're going to boycott, like, so his response, you know, to this, and Candace, you know, kind of shows, like, I guess on his Instagram, he starts, you know, being even more flamboyant. Like, you know, yeah, I'm LGBTQ, and, you know, his flag on his own personal Instagram, almost kind of like mocking or teasing, you know, like flaming the, you know, the fire with this, right? But again, it's kind of like with your kid. Like, if I don't give you that type of attention, like, are you able to respond to that? You know what I mean? Like, some people do to get a response because they want that attention. They want to, you know, have a battle or something like that. Especially when it comes to spiritual things like that. There's some things that, you know, rise up that let me challenge this thing that, you know, doesn't agree with what I do or whatever, and we play right into it all the time. We give it attention. We argue with things that, if we address it and we just let God handle that situation, let it really play out the way God wants it to play out for that person, you know, I think we get if we trust God to really put the plan in place on, you know, how this person will come to him and have a relationship with them, I think we'll go a lot further. But for some reason, we feel like, let us boycott, let us argue, let us fuss, let us, you know, fight these people physically, put them on a defense, and wonder why, you know, they don't want to listen to anything we have. And in a lot of cases say, you know, say things about what we believe that's really untrue, but it's how we're representing God. It's how we're representing our faith that they're really speaking to.
And his camera is not taken away from the message of the show. He's a cameraman behind the scenes. They're not showing that in the show. They're not saying Jesus was a part of that. They're not saying any of the disciples are part of that. It's just a cameraman. He's behind. I think the enemy uses people because it's a powerful show, because they want us to, in my drama class, even at the church I attend, they wanted us to watch that, the series. Say, hey, this is a series you guys need to watch. It's it's impactful. And I think even Satan will use the Christians to come against the Christians to dilute or get rid of the message. It's like, yeah, if we're going to boycott it, you don't even know you're being used by the enemy, because he want to shut the message down. He don't care who he used to shut it down, because it's a very powerful show. Because even though I haven't had a chance to look at all of it, I've heard the testimonies in the background, and a lot of people talk about the show. that have seen it. And it was like, son, you really got to watch it. So it didn't deviate from the message. The message is getting across. The message is helping people. And sometimes you major on the minors. Don't worry about that cameraman with the LGBT sign. They didn't put it in the show. It didn't take away from the show. They're keeping the message pure. Film it, let's release it, and let's let that be that. It's just he's a cameraman. It's like, what are you talking about? You got to isolate. You ain't hardly got no family, and everybody in your family saves. Uncles, cousins, aunts. Don't be inviting them to no party. You know they ain't saved. Don't go over their house. Don't say happy birthday. Don't be talking to your mama because she ain't saved. Come on now, let's be realistic. Just have what you have to influence them instead of them influencing you. Are you insecure about the man being on set because he's filming, because he gonna taint everybody, gonna have everybody else being LGBT? What is he gonna do? What you afraid of? What's all this insecurity? He just filming. Film it. Let's cut it. Let's play it. Let's get the people saved. Let's get the people a better relationship. Let's get the people know, because it's got a big impact. And I'm gonna tell you, anytime you make a difference in something that got anything to do with God, the enemy is always gonna fight it. He'll bring up something like this from the inside, somebody saying they say, and he'll do anything to deter from that message. He wants to take over, because you ever notice the world be with the world. They can perform rituals on stage. I mean, have a whole satanic ritual, and nobody said nothing. And when we do anything, you got to say something that's come from the inside. If we be like them and stick together, and they don't come against each other, we don't need to come against each other. The movie is getting the message out. He's a cameraman. He's behind the scenes. Let that go.
Yeah. I mean, and that was one of the other points that I think is really key. And it goes to something that has weakened us and is weakening us as a church. Like, again, you have a show here that is relaying accurate biblical scripture, right?
Mhm.
It's not, like you said, it's not supporting, it's not, saying, pride this or anything. It doesn't have any hidden agendas. It's giving accuracy. Like, I haven't watched anything yet that, goes against the word of God. You know what I mean? And here we are talking about boycotting one of the only shows on TV that's doing that. Like,
yeah,
we thinking about that wrong. And again, you got the whole body of Christ, almost 3 million people in the world that say we're Christians, say we're believers, right? And a quarter or half of us, having a conversation about not supporting something because of a worker in the background. Like, that's crazy to me. But to your point, Lasagna, that's how we handle a lot of different things. You know what I mean? Like, we handle things to this extreme, and it's counterproductive to what we really need to be doing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
People, Kirk Franklin, I'll just use him for example, right? His music is played in the club, and his, like, all over the years, it's been all these little nitpicky things. Argument with his son. Like, he's a man. Like, life is going to happen to him just like it happens to you and anybody else that you know. But if his music and his content is blessing people and showing people, leading people to Christ, or helping people understand worship better or whatever, I don't get the issue. We act like I think we have a hard time separating people from their giftings or their talents or what their content and what they're bringing to something. There is a difference there. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying your character shouldn't, you shouldn't be, continuing to improve your character, letting God, like, really, but that's a progress. That's a process. And you're not going to be perfect until you out of this body. You're not going to be perfect. You can get better every day. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I used to do that I don't do, but it's a whole bunch of stuff that God's still working out of me, but it's a process, right? But does that take away from, when I'm giving you a scripture, or I'm telling you, or sharing something that God is trying to help us out with, or sharing content that that represents him. Like, I'm very clear on this ain't me. this is God. Like don't, it's not about me. It's not about Lasagna. It's not about Dion. It's about content and about who we want you to see. Like, I'll be the first to tell you, just like I'm telling you that I've never heard Donald Trump say, I am not perfect. Like, you look hard enough, you're gonna see a blemish. You're gonna see some you're gonna see some stuff, right? I'm never gonna claim to be that, but I'm okay with that. And that's why I know for a fact I need Jesus in my life. And that's why I try to hold close to him, and I try to, seek him and just be to stay in his presence, because I know my righteousness and who I am is this filthy rags. I need him in my life. I know that. And I've come to that knowledge, right? And I think we all need to know that, we all need to, share that. And stuff like this, like Chosen, really great show. If you haven't seen it, I would recommend seeing it. And, I think it'll lock you in. And what I love about it, and I think that's what will, like I said, for some other things, one other thing that I wanted to talk about, but we'll push that to next week, is just really talk about how, we've been talking about having a relationship with God, right? And what that, that process and why that's important. But I feel like it's necessary for us to talk about what that looks like practically. What does it look like to have a relationship with God, right? So, next show, I want to dig into that a little bit more. I want us to really just talk about what does it really look like when you are having a relationship with God, and how does that affect you, and how, what does that really, practically, what does that look like? And I know we have some testimonies, and I know we have some examples to share with that. So I'm super excited about where that would go. So anything else about this chosen topic before we let it go today? What you laughing at, Dion? 90%. Man said 90% of the industry. You an actor. You and Lasagna done did some acting. That should
Yes, sir.
With
the curve a little bit.
With them kind of people.
90% is a lot, man.
Shelton,
He might have
it's more than it is not.
He didn't say 50. He didn't say 40. He said 90.
I assure you, it's more than it is not.
Okay.
I'm with you. Yeah. I don't think it's that high. I think it might be a lot.
Some of your favorite
more.
actors and actresses, like straight up, like ain't gonna change. Like I am this way. Yeah.
Well, that's not my testimony. So I'm gonna
been in big movies, been in big productions. You like?
Oh, the big movies. Okay, I get you.
Yeah,
I got you.
And that's irregardless. Chosen, really good show. Definitely not something I would recommend boycotting. If anything, share it, promote it, recommend it. It's something that, and what I've seen in the comments, and this is what excites me about it, is agnostic and atheist people looking at it and speaking to the fact that the Jesus that's represented in it is not the Jesus that has been presented to them in some religious forms and in the religious way that some of us as Christians try to present Jesus. Like, and if you really read the New Testament, like, and I was sharing with my wife, because again, some of the stuff they've taken some creative liberty to talk about people's background and stuff like that. It's not in the Bible. Right? We don't know where the man in the pool, came from. The Bible doesn't really talk about his background. Well, we know he got a background. We know he had a life before that story. You know what I mean? And so they've taken some creative liberty to do that, and I like that because I think if we did a little bit more like that, then the Bible would become a lot more real to us, to people who just read it as like a book, and like a Bible stories and stuff like that. I think the more you immerse yourself, the more you'll understand and start to realize and empathize with what the word of God is saying and trying to say, to you. Yeah, what you're about
You have
to
to
say.
read it. You have to read it with. You have to read the word with that kind of understanding and expectation that these were real people. A lot of times, just like this man, we pick up their story later in their life or earlier in their life or whatever, and we don't talk about some of the things that made them that way. But you got to understand and put yourself in their shoes when you faced with this kind of decision based on the life you've led or whatever. You know what I'm saying? What would you do? Well, certainly, whatever kind of factors factored into their lives and that decision, you got to weigh that out as well. Like um, when God told Abraham, you know what I'm saying, to sacrifice his son. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that that was real.
Right.
And he had to go to his wife and say, "Hey, this is what we're gonna get up and do tomorrow. Me and the
No,
boy,
he
we're
didn't
going
tell his
on."
wife. No, sir. He said, me and the
What you
boy
talking
going
about?
to
Going on where,
worship.
baby?
He didn't
Yeah.
tell
Going
his
on
wife
where?
none of that. No,
Nah.
sir.
We're gonna go up to the mountaintop and I'm gonna come
He
back
said,
later
we
on and
going
have
to
supper with you.
worship.
No.
That would have been a different Bible story
No.
if you told a woman that's 90 and that had
Now
a
my
baby,
son.
and you told me you gonna kill
Sacrifice
my son.
who?
You better
What
go
you
back there and
talking
get
about?
Ishmael. You better go sacrifice somebody else. You ain't finna take my
That
boy.
was a whole
And I'm 90
conversation. I
years
don't think
old.
he got
No,
a whole lot
sir.
of sleep that night. But the Bible don't say that. But you got to understand, you don't just say that and roll over and go to sleep.
He ain't
No.
said none of that. He
I
didn't
don't
even
think
say
you
that.
can hear Sonya, but Sonya is pointing out the fact that he didn't
didn't
tell
say a
her
word. He was
exactly
scared.
what he was going to do. He told him he was going to go worship.
And look, he didn't even tell the servants because he was scared. He'd be
He
like, y'all
told
stay back here. Me and the boy
Because
going up a little further to
but
worship.
imagine that, Dion. Like again, like what Lasagna is saying is, if you would have told,
It'd have been a
Abraham,
different Bible story.
like, yeah,
You could have told him, well, you better get Ishmael. You got another son. You ain't gonna
you
take
better
mine.
get Ishmael. She said you better get Ishmael.
you better go get Ishy. Go get your other son.
But
You
that's the
better.
point. That's the point.
Yeah. We have a good
my
time. Yeah.
advice to anybody is when you're reading the Bible, start reading it and realize that these were real people.
Real people,
These
yeah.
Sure.
real experiences.
Yep.
And the more you can, take the time. Like stop just reading it, the whole chapter and then letting it go. But, think about it, meditate on it. Like, man, like why did this person say this? Or why did this person respond? How would I have responded in that situation? Like it just, when you start reading the Bible in that way, like it says that the Bible is a living word, right?
It is.
And to me, it has layers, like, and you uncover all these layers. The more you read it, the more you open your mind and you put yourself in those situations. And again, it's just not one of those books that you read and you just let it go, or you just read it surface. Like that might be good for the first time, but anytime you read it, just consider, put yourself, like we've been saying over the last couple of weeks about empathy, put yourself in these characters' place, and then see how your reaction would be to these situations. See what revelation God gives you, through the Word of God. It's life changing, when you start looking at it that way. So, and I know I'm talking to two people that can do that, because I've heard some of their comedy before, and you only can do that if you've immersed yourself and put yourself in these characters' shoes. So, definitely if you get a chance, you got to hear some of their comedy when it comes to that. But I really appreciate this conversation. I know we got stuck on the current events, but I think ultimately we got to talk about some things that affect the body of Christ and affect culture, like how Christians relate to what's happening in this world a little bit. Like I said, next week we'll get a little deeper into how does it what does that practically look like? One of the questions is how do you know you're having a relationship with God and not just religion? So something to think about, something to consider. As always, when we have that conversation, we're looking forward to your comments and your feedback and your thoughts about that conversation as well. So, all right.
Welcome to the Talk Show. Well,